In 1996, Scholastic began publishing Animorphs. Over the next 6 years, Katherine Applegate and her husband, Michael Grant, under the pseudonym K.A. Applegate, produced 54 main series books, several spin-offs, and inspired a TV series, graphic novels, and a cult following. We can't tell you where we live. We can't even tell you our last names. But we can tell you our thoughts and feelings on this series, book by book. I'm Miranda.
I'm Eddie.
And I'm Chris.
And we are the Anidorks.
These may be kids' books, but we discuss dark themes and mature content. There may also be some explicit language. Listener discretion is advised.
My book stack was missing.
Oh.
The hell? Oh. There you go.
For your mic?
Now it's much better. Yes.
It is a lot better. Holy shit. Yeah.
What I just learned is that
We can budget for a stand for you if you want.
I have my computer on a stool and my mic will always be wherever the lower step is. So, maybe this will change.
Oh, that's pretty good. That's actually really clever, Eddie. I'm really impressed by that. That's really good. That's like what I would do if I was in your situation.
One day you could be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ew, I sure hope not. I need a desk with lumbar support. I need one of those desks that reaches
wraps around and holds your back.
Anyway, we read another book. I know it's hard to believe because it sounds like I barely know how to read. But I read a whole nother book.
And you know what?
And you guys are going to be so proud of me.
I think we all loved it.
It was
I think we
great.
did. Oh, I read this one first to make up for my former sins.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yes, you did.
This cover is amazing. And in fact, the chin butt that evolves on the third iteration of Marco morphing into the spider it's iconic. That's like some Lazy Town style cleft chin.
Oh man.
It's so
And the
horrifying.
leap that happens after that as he becomes more tarantulas.
Yeah, it's basically all spider right after that. There's just no two ways about it.
We know this is not accurate. This is a fake morph because they would not get any closer to the ground just because they're morphing something small.
Right. He wouldn't squat just because he was going to morph a spider. That would make sense.
No, he will wait until he falls over, and he does it multiple times.
You're saying that they set this up so that it made some sense.
Yeah, and I want the all fours moment.
Designer.
I want to see them teetering and tottering, which I know K. Applegate wants to see that too. So.
Well, that's a widely debated conspiracy theory. I was listening to an episode of Coast to Coast AM that had Michael Grant on it, and he was saying I wish that were true. I can't wait for Jeff to host Applegate the podcast. I can't wait for it. We gotta do 3 sentence summaries.
Oh, yeah.
I'll do 3.
Okay.
And Miranda will do 2. All right. I'll do 1.
I'm just gonna start. Marco morphs into a dog and runs into his old friend Eric, who he quickly learns is an android. Well, he learns it at a moderate pace. That's the one sentence.
That's valid. I shouldn't be allowed to make faces while you're doing this.
He and the rest of the gang go to Eric's secret underground base and learn the history of a new species, the Chi, along with the insert name here. They go full Mission Impossible mode in order to seize a special rock that would allow the Chi to become violet. Period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that 3 sentences?
Yeah.
That was great. That was excellent.
Just insert Legion's loyalty mission from Mass Effect 2. So Marco reconnects with an old acquaintance who he realizes had once behaved strangely in his past and quickly discovers he is not all that he seems. In the end, the important thing that we learn is something that we've all known all along, which is that dogs are morally better people than anyone you've ever met.
There you go.
Top that, Chris.
All right, I will. The universe in the corners, for the longest time, has said to itself, this is why we can't have nice things. And in the shambles of that murmur, we were given dogs.
Yeah, okay.
You went
That checks out.
the full thematic direction this time.
Yeah, this is the first time I've done a one sentence in a while.
Yeah.
I thought you were just reading one of those comics off your wall at first.
Oh, yeah. The world was my oyster. Then I realized it was everyone's oyster, and I didn't want it anymore. Spencer Moody, 2021.
Lots of dogs in this one.
It's book 10. Lots of dogs.
Yeah, I don't
we
even know.
start with dogs.
So many dogs. We end with
We
dogs.
end with dogs. We have dogs in the middle.
It's not for who
really
the dog barks.
a very friendly and overall lovable book.
Yeah, but also
Lovable.
very dark at points. It wouldn't be
Extremely.
Animorphs. It wasn't.
What
the-
are you? Oh, well, are you talking literally, like when they're bats flying?
Oh, that's
around?
true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Is that?
Oh yeah, none of
Okay.
us hit the. Well, you hit the spy mission, but we didn't hit the they're going to be bats.
Yeah.
So the very first thing Marco chooses to do in this book, other than give himself compliments, is to introduce us to a very important character,
This is exactly what I do in parties.
and that character is named Cherise.
Yes, we've met characters who played a significant role in at least the scene, who were mentioned once, maybe twice, but Cherise.
Sure.
Immediately, we get Cherise's name 3 times because they want it to
Yep.
stick. They want us to pay attention to Cherise.
Cherise.
It's Chekhov Cherise.
Yeah.
I get
It's
paid
fulfilled
every time I
itself
say
by the
that.
third sentence.
Yeah.
Right. If there's hair cutting shears on the mantle in Act 1, someone will have a bowl cut by Act 3.
Yeah, so
So yes, Marco has gotten a maybe not so
Flattering.
Not
yeah,
so perfect
probably hip
haircut.
and he's probably ready for the clubs. It's
Oh,
just
yeah.
that the clubs are not elementary school.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you
Like-
think it's like real short on the bottom, long and floppy on top?
I
Like,
bet you it's like a Matt Lawrence
Yeah.
haircut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're
Yeah.
this age, you don't want to trust the reactions of your friends because they're just scared of change. The fact that your hair looks different
very.
at all, terrifying. A threat to
Right.
them.
Like when I shaved that one time, you said I looked terrible.
I would never. Miranda might have.
and he's like, no, I said you look terrible because you were bleeding everywhere. Not
Chris, are we taking you to a hospital? What happened?
Can someone tell me, so Cherise, cut Marco's hair, his new haircut. This actually it's there throughout the whole book. It's there, you think, in the last pages of the book. Does it have anything to do? Is there any kind of resonance to it?
Oh,
Does it
that's
have
a great question. So, and just to really hit it, Marco's intro about not being able to say his name, he talks a lot about how cute he is and about how he knows it. And
Yeah.
this Cherise, he refers to her as his stylist.
That's right.
And
Yes.
and that Cherise said his cuteness quotient had risen from a 9 to a definite 10.
Which we all know is the
gotten
highest
cuter.
CQ you can have.
Yeah.
God damn it. Yes, absolutely. A cuteness quotient I hope someday to attain. Is it about loss? Is it about change and loss and accepting change? Because he
think there's
lost the
that.
hair
I think there's
and
that.
found identity in the change.
I think there's that. I think there's also a lot to be said about appearances in this book.
Oh, yes.
So maybe on that note, maybe we'll track the cute factor. We'll track the cute new haircut. that
I
Marco
think
got.
we need to. I think at each point we should try and give some sort of Richter scale like measure for how much it's resonating through the book.
Yeah, and maybe listeners are wondering, why are they just started the book, why are they spending so much time on Marco's haircut and Cherise?
The short answer is we only read the first 3 paragraphs, so we have to make
but
a
also,
meal out of this.
they said Cherise's name 3 times,
times.
and they will if in case you start to forget her, they start to bring up. They don't mention her again.
But they bring up the
for a
haircut.
bit. They bring up the haircut.
They bring
a
up
lot,
Cherise's work. Yeah, it's like we don't talk about Michelangelo after chapter 1, but we talk about the statue of David a lot in this book.
Right.
So we get our review here. I think we can jump right to Marco wants to sneak into a concert.
Yeah, this is so cool because they list 3 like peak 90s acts, 2 of which I actually enjoy quite much. It's 9 Inch Nails, which holy shit, seeing them in the 90s, that'd have been fucked. No child should be allowed to do that. And Alanis Morissette, and then The Offspring, who I only remember as has-beens from the time that I was introduced to them, but they do rock. But they suck. I like Alanis Morissette and 9 Inch Nails. I don't like The Offspring that much.
And we do get, so right away, Jake comments on Marco's hair. What happened to your hair, man? Marco's like, looks cool, huh? And Jake just moves the conversation
Yeah, he's
along.
just like, not stepping on that one.
Marco's idea is that they will...
At least one of them's going to morph a dog to get into this outdoor show without buying a ticket, if not both.
Yeah. Well, no, and he needs Jake to come with him for some reason. I don't know why, but he wants Jake to go to the concert with him, and they're going to do it as dogs because they're going to hang out on the lawn, and they're not going to pay.
Well, I think they're friends, Chris.
I think he doesn't want to go alone.
I ask my friends to go to shows all the time, and then they're like, oh, sorry, can't make it, or I don't want to go. And then I'm like, bummer. And then they're like, why don't you just go alone? Going to shows alone is great.
But Marco is like, no, we're going to morph dogs. It's going to be amazing. You have to come with me. And Jake's like, the only way I'd do it is if I knew you were going and I couldn't stop you. I'd have to at least keep an eye out for you.
Right. Or, well, also very specifically, Marco points out the really important point that if any of these rock bands were to be yerked, that's the beginning of the end.
They could
they have a sacred duty to go to that concert.
And this is one of the things that really hasn't aged well about this book, because right now we have a pop star, a yerked pop star who's quite successful. And I think that that's very progressive. I think Taylor Swift's career has really impressed us all, because it just, if you read this book, you'd assume yerked pop stars would never be a thing.
Chris, we were worried about getting canceled with our Book 9 episode. I think you're really treading on thin ice right now.
See, I thought you were gonna go for an Avril Lavigne was replaced by a robot thing.
See, I did think about that, but I thought that would be more controversial, so I went the Taylor Swift direction.
So, yes, he convinces Jake to sneak in. They're going to morph dogs. Marco seems weirdly convinced that girls love Irish setters, and they are very pretty dogs, but like...
And you identify as a girl?
I am a girl.
Okay, so there you go. Yeah. I needed to confirm both parts of that. It's like, because it's like, it means nothing if you think they're pretty and you don't identify as a girl.
I do. That's what it says on my driver's license. Girl.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the driver's license test, of course.
Instead of, most people will have MF, I have girl.
We get that Marco, I think they acquire a few new morphs this book, but Marco has an Irish setter.
Well, he's always going to the dog park on his own. He won't go to concerts on his own, but he goes to the dog park and he's like, yes, this is a cute dog. I will acquire it. And all the dog owners are like, wow, so calm around you.
Yeah, he just watches which one girls pet the most. And he's like, that one, I'm going to get that morph. What?
Yes, yeah.
So anyway, he twists Jake's arm into committing a sin of morphing for recreational reasons.
Yes.
And going to the concert with them. But there is one line that I want to hit. It's the foreshadow line, because they usually do this in chapter 1. I decided to sneak into a concert. I had not decided to uncover one of the greatest secrets of human history or become the person who would decide the fate of an entire race. I just wanted to hear some music. Should have been NBD, y'all. I thought that was really progressive that they updated it to NBD, y'all, when they did the reprints.
Yeah, I actually, I didn't quite zero in, like, going back over this, that they actually do tell you what's going to happen.
They do. They totally do.
Yeah. And in chapter 2, we're going to talk about it. They talk about they actually talk about what morphing a dog is. They talk about the otherworldliness in a way they hint at the otherworldliness of morphing a dog as opposed to other creatures. That ends up being really important. They actually put that sentence in there.
Yep. Marco talks about it and Jake talked about it way back, but Marco really goes into just how fun feels as a dog, and just how truly earth-shakingly content you are as a dog. Like, nothing could move you from your contentedness as a dog when happy things are happening. Marco gets so excited when he first becomes a dog that he does what I think is a very, very normal thing of initiating play, but I've been told is not welcome in my workplace, which is that he sort of crouches down.
Miranda, when you do it's usually around stacks of paper, and you knock a lot of stuff over. It's like I appreciate that you're excited, but like, let me read this description, because just Miranda, you can't do this in a small office. Rough, I barked for no reason. Miranda did a little dance, sort of like Miranda was going to run away, but then Miranda stopped suddenly and crouched down on her front legs and grins like an idiot at Jake.
Specifically Jake.
At Jake.
But Miranda is front legs on it's confusing. The paper's everywhere. It's like a whole thing.
Well, she's doing the play bow. I've always understood that. So,
but he's so excited during his little dance that he runs directly in front of a car, and then is like, "Whoa, something smells weird," and just walks away.
Yeah, which is crazy because Marco is the cautious one. Marco worries a lot about his father, who just lost Marco's mom, and he doesn't want to be an animorph because he doesn't want to endanger himself, because he doesn't want to inflict more loss on his father. And then he does this.
He just runs in front of a car.
Yeah.
Not even to save the world.
No. Just for fun.
There's so many nice details in this chapter, though, because I want to get back to Marco's recklessness being uncharacteristic, because that's 100% true. I think Marco is more successfully a rascal in this book than I ever would have hoped for. Like, he's so precocious and so Bart Simpson-y, but like good. I don't know. He's like good, unlike Bart Simpson, who's bad. But the point is, there's so many, like, they decide to morph into dogs, and so they sneak into an alleyway, buy some dumpsters to do it. But, like, the descriptions of everybody walking to this festival, there were people everywhere, thousands of people, kids in black t-shirts, displaced deadheads with little granny sunglasses and dreadlocks, parental units carrying babies and trying to look cool in their Dockers, and hardcore punk rockers with pierced everything. Like, it's like, were K.A. Applegate and Michael Grant cool? Did they go to Nine Inch Nails shows? Did they get Scholastic to pay for them to go to a Downward Spiral tour show? Because that's pretty fucking lit.
Well, they had the research, Chris. There was a scene at a concert and they needed to go see.
Like, these descriptions are so cute. Like, he's like, I could hear the warm-up band racing through their power set.
Warm-up band.
Yeah,
Chris, that's what you've always called it when we go to shows. You're always like, we gotta get there in time for the warm-up set. And then when it's really good, you go, they're racing through their power set.
You're right. And I think that's why I want to, you're right. You just imagine little hipster Chris saying that. Oh my God.
You're so cool.
I'm so cool, you guys. Oh, all right. Pizza.
We do get some gross things here. I guess we jumped over some of the morph descriptions. The tail was sticking out, but it had no fur yet. It was just this kind of grayish, chicken-skinned whip.
Yeah.
Anyway, so as we mentioned, we're at this point where they're dogs and they're trying to get it together to get into the lawn of this festival so that they can watch the bands that they so desperately came to see. We get, the usual, what is it to be a dog? Your nose is incredible. And he talks about all the things he knows about people just from being able to smell them. It reminds me of the Rugrats episode where Chucky gets allergy meds or something and can like smell really good.
That's how I felt when I got my adenoids and tonsils taken out. So
Marco runs into a couple, right? Like a guy and a girl, and they start petting. She starts petting Marco, and then the guy starts petting Marco, right?
It is a sight to be seen.
Yeah.
They start scratching his ribs, and then he starts doing that little dog leg thing where they kick. Mm-hmm. Anyway, Jake,
comes upon a scene of debauchery, the likes of which have never been told.
Jake comment at Marco enjoying this attention. That's nice, Marco. Very dignified. What's next? You're going to lick yourself. But then they start paying attention to Jake Dog. And Marco's like, no way. No way. There can't be a
that
cuter
girl
dog
said
than me.
he's cuter. That's not okay.
Yeah. So Marco continues on. He and Jake go closer to the stage. They realize they can hear the lyrics for the first time at a show. And they run into someone handing out flyers for the sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, "Whoa, the sharing thing sounds pretty cool, but it has to do
Never
with
heard of that.
Never heard of that. They would have mentioned that in books 1 through 9.
There's something even weirder about this guy than the fact that he's handing out flyers for the sharing.
This kind of annoyed me because they missed an opportunity to make a joke. But here's what. So they introduced the fella handing out the things, and they're like, "Oh, I know this person. He's familiar. His name's Eric King. He transferred out of our school like a year ago." It was coming closer, and they figure out that he's giving out the things for the sharing. And then after they get away from him, Marco thought speaks to Jake and says, "Jake, did you notice it?" Jake says, "Oh, yeah, definitely." Then Marco says, "Oh, man, there is something very, very wrong with Eric." And that's the cliffhanger for the chapter, which, after having read book 1, when they smell the Yeerk in Tom's ear, I really thought that that's where we were going here. But at the beginning of chapter 3, it's revealed that he did not smell at all.
No smell.
He had no odor, which is
Well,
something
so-
I strive for.
I agree. It's vague here. It seems like that's what they're setting up. But wouldn't you already assume that Eric was Yeerked if he's handing out flyers for the
Yeah,
sharing
that's
at a
sort of
concert?
the weirdest part about it, right? Because, like, you think that they're tying in that smell thing again, and then it's like, oh, he doesn't smell at all. Are we just totally erasing the Yeerk smell thing? Which, honestly, it seems like we have, although that does
we
not
get to it later.
necessarily end up being what's going on in this case.
Yeah.
Right, because if it was like it was in book 1, they would be able to tell who was Yeerked immediately.
Yeah.
But later on, they actually specifically sort of retcon against that.
And so I wondered if there was maybe something at the sharing that did smell. It's not the Yeerk, but it's something that's there. And so it's like maybe you could identify, but it was only, you could only identify that they'd been in contact with this thing.
Or maybe Tom had bought like Axe body spray.
It was new on the scene.
It was new on the scene.
The smell that they get from Tom, I'm pretty sure they also get from Chapman at some point.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that's the smell when they break into the hospital in book 6. That's what they smell when they're trying to find Yeerk pool. So it's become, I do think the thread of the Yeerk smell has been pretty consistent.
You're right, because even when they go to the ship in book 5, they talk about how it has this specific odor.
Yeah.
But where is them being able to detect controllerdom via smell other than in book 1?
I guess maybe there just has to be a lot of it present.
Maybe.
And maybe they're trying to imply that Tom was like fresh out of the Yeerk pool on that day or something.
Yeah, maybe what's his Yeerk's name?
No, Temresh.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, yeah.
Temresh 154? Maybe 114?
Who's Innis then? Who's Innis? Chapman's?
Yeah. Innis 226, Temresh
Yeah.
114, formerly Temresh 252.
Nice, he got a promotion, right?
Now deceased, right?
Now deceased. Yes.
Yeah. Temresh 114, now deceased. The late.
Yeah. Thank you,
Temresh 114.
Yeah.
Do you think he was demoted back down to 252 posthumously?
Yeah.
I don't know. The Yeerks are brutal, but they don't like retire their tiny little slug jerseys like they do in basketball. But the point is, maybe his hygiene was just bad. Maybe he was a sloppy Yeerk.
Dirty Yeerk.
Yeah, dirty Yeerk.
Ooh, what kind of, is that like a dirty martini?
Oh, dirty Yeerk.
Ooh, added to the list.
It's like you get the olive and you make it look like a little Yeerk.
And it just has a leaf in it.
You just stick a bunch of olives together with a toothpick. That's,
Yeah, but it's got to be a gross toothpick that you got from the trash.
Oh, wait. No. You put a shrimp in it.
No. You put a gun in it. No. I don't know why I said that. I had no joke.
I feel like they could have gone, at least to make it not confusing, they could have gone in a different direction than smell. But I get it. They have a dog here and they want to.
Yeah.
They just could have had a line where they're like, and it wasn't like the smell of the Yeerk.
That would have been that would have been excellent if they had done that. I agree 100%. It would have cleared up the whole thing.
I think we should, pop on over to chapter 3. What do you think?
Yeah,
We're in it, actually. We're actually in it already.
Because that's the beginning of smelling.
Yes, they're discussing how he didn't smell at all, how they picked up no odors off him. There was nothing even to indicate biologicalness to him, essence to him.
Who's
and this
discussing
conversation is happening in
all of
Cassie's
us
bar.
Animorphs except for Axe, who's not here.
Exactly. We're having our team meeting, but Axe isn't invited. Usually this is where we introduce the crew. We go through and in this book, Marco just like does a Comedy Central roast of everybody.
Yeah,
like,
it's pretty on point.
Yeah, if the past few books have been like him getting roasted, this is like he goes around and is just he's a total like what's that called? I guess a roast comic or something. An insult comic. Thank you.
He's like the
God, I'm
dog.
getting so old. Yes. Marco the insult comic dog. What was that dog's name?
With the cigar.
Oh my
Ketchup?
God. No.
No.
I mean, it wasn't even a good...
No.
Triumph.
Oh, it's Triumph.
He was in everything.
The whole thing of this scene is that they're talking about Eric and they're just kind of like, something's not right about him and we should investigate.
Yeah, that's the general gist of it.
I mean, the books can be summarized in 3 sentences, Eddie.
No, I'm just setting it up.
Exceptionally well-placed burns. Did we already pass the ecology bookstore? Did we not talk about that?
Yes, we did. So that was in book 2. Yeah, because
in
they
chapter 2,
morphed
they walked past an ecology bookstore. I just I want to know what that is.
Let's go back to that. This is our unstructured era. Let it be known, because we're trying to be so responsible for you. We're trying to grow with you, and yet we're still children. We're still young enough.
Just a baby.
Just a little baby. Across from the park where they morphed by the dumpsters, there was a little street with coffee shops, restaurants, and an ecology bookstore. Somebody from the 90s must explain to me what the fuck
is an ecology
bookstore. I just noticed, so I moved back to West Philly, and I just noticed a new tower went up with the big letters EGS on it. I think that this concert might have happened at the Mann Center.
Oh, no. I thought it was Clark Park. I thought they had it in the dog bowl.
You know what? I'm going to go snooping around for flyers. You're absolutely right.
That's why they were letting all the dogs in.
The dog bowl. Yeah, the dog bowl's so good. The thing about that bowl, though, it's not even filled up like a third of the way with dogs. You could get a lot more dogs in there. More dogs in the dog bowl.
It's more of a bowl for dogs than a bowl of dogs.
Of dogs, right. But I want a bowl of dogs.
So, Chris, do you mind if we go back to the barn?
No, yeah, we're back at the barn.
It wasn't me who took us there. I was doing that for my wonderful sibling Miranda.
No, I know. Okay.
I know you hate your siblings canonically.
Because I don't host a podcast with them.
You wouldn't go back a paragraph, nigh a chapter for your siblings.
I saw your mom, Eddie. She didn't mention you. She didn't mention the others either, but
she said, I listened to this wonderful podcast hosted by you and Chris.
Sibling.
I'm telling you this.
My son told me about it.
He likes it, I think. I will say, the first, I like this a lot. It reminded me of book 4. The message, I feel like we got a very clear thing. We have a question, what's going on with Eric, and we just kind of slowly build that for like the first 5 or so chapters. And it's kind of like a mystery for this like first third.
Yeah, they can't figure out why he wouldn't smell. They're like, what the... And then they're trying to figure out how to find this guy. They're like, we got to just find him, right? And they get in some jibes about his haircut. They're like... Normal Yeerked people don't smell. Chapman doesn't smell, whatever. And so Rachel comes up with this weird idea that they could just go to the site of the concert and search for clues.
Yes. Yeah.
And then she wakes up to it and realizes, wow, that's the most Nancy Drew bullshit I've ever said.
What do you think she means clues?
I think she means like
the
big tokens with a
flyers.
picture of a magnifying glass on it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe
Like,
she
yeah.
hopes that if she finds a flyer that he handed out, that it'll somehow they'll notice its lack of smell and be able to trace it. I don't know. I also think it's sort of like when
Fingerprints, dusting for prints.
I also
absolutely.
like just imagine it would sort of be like when Steve's standing in the room with the big blue paw print on it,
Yeah.
going, "What? Oh, there's no clues
Where
here."
is it?
Yeah, like,
Yeah. Is it on the refrigerator?
It really is dogs all the way down with this book. It's like, yeah.
we get an absolutely great line from Marco, which is maybe Axe can try and tap into the internet and get past all the security buffers and locate him.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything.
It's just
It just-
absolute
yeah.
nonsense.
Well, let me ask. Okay, maybe Axe can. I'm going to break it down. Maybe Axe can try and tap into the internet. We've seen him do some version of that before, right?
Yeah, sure.
Get past
Yeah.
all the security buffers. What security buffers on what?
Like his home computer, we'd still have to know where he lived to do that.
Yeah.
Or like-
also maybe specify that that's what.
If there
Although-
was social media, it could be like
here's an interesting thing. When the internet came out, there were so few users that supposedly someone went to the trouble to get a list of all the users, and they printed that list out and they binded it into some sort of book. And that book would have, if Eric had the internet, been a way to look them up. Now, being a Zoomer, I can't think of any other way. To like look up a human based upon a piece of technology that they once had. Miranda, as an old person who's yawning, is there some sort if like
I'd Google it.
All right. Well, Google didn't exist in the 90s, and I know that from history class.
I would ask Jeeves.
Or just ask.com. No.
Yeah.
I think it started as Ask Jeeves and became
Yes.
Ask.com.
Also, Google totally did exist in the
It
90s,
did, just
and
not
I
in
need
this,
people to know
not
that.
in this capacity or
PageRank was a
at
thing.
this exact time.
The point is Cassie suggests a phone book, and everybody gets disappointed that they're not going to be a
that it's
detective
just a
anymore.
phone book.
Yeah. Can I say about Ask Jeeves? As a kid, I was my favorite search engine because I actually felt like I was asking this butler to go and
Find the
search
answer.
for the answers. Cassie suggests this idea, why don't we look in the phone book? And Jake's like, yeah, I guess we could also look in the phone book. Cassie leaves
And then
to go
Marco
get the phone
chimes
book.
in,
Yeah.
she really just doesn't get this whole superhero thing.
He wants to do the cool thing.
And then we get some sort of indication that he references Wolverine, and Rachel says that Wolverine was the animal she was looking for of what Marco's haircut reminded her of, which I think does mean it is long on top.
So
yeah.
So haircut clearly important, right? It's still coming up.
Outward
chapters.
appearances, man.
They don't want to
Yeah.
just keep mentioning Cherise by name, but they're letting us know, we're still thinking of Cherise. Keep her in
Her
mind.
work lives on.
Yes.
Two things
It's
I want to
memorable.
hit. Marco as Roastmaster hits two things really nicely. He talks about Rachel as an elf maiden from Lord of the Rings.
Yep.
And I just like the Galadriel resonance there.
Yeah,
that
for
kicks
sure.
ass. And then he says Cassie is our animal expert and our resident ecology nut, which could you have guessed that Marco in book fucking 10 would make the same joke we made in episode 1?
Oh, with
like we went
resident?
resident freak Tobias. It's like, it's pretty uncanny. It's like, I'm proud of us.
I don't
Like,
know. Yeah, there's a couple moments in this book that I'm a little proud of us for. So,
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Like when we guessed that Marco's mom got a promotion.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Drowning in
Yeah.
above ground pool.
He talks about how Cassie's nothing like Rachel, and he says she does not subscribe to Teen or YM.
I don't remember YM. I don't know what
I don't
that
either.
is.
He says Cassie's much more likely to buy a magazine like Smelly Animals of America.
He really got her ass.
Yeah, there's a couple other. What was the? I like this. So he describes. So that's our little group, and I feel like he just gives us a little scene so that we can keep track of everyone. He characterizes everyone quickly. We have Rachel standing in the middle of the room, looking like someone was shining a spotlight on her. Jake pacing back and forth and looking far too intense. Cassie cradling a duck in her arms while she changed its bandage. Tobias preening his feathers and looking around with that eternal hawk glare. And me, if we were still doing verb in a book, this would be it. It would take it for a second book.
Yes.
Me
Yeah, 2 books.
lolling on the back on a bale
I'm
of hay.
so glad that you mentioned that because that was huge for me, and I didn't highlight it this time. I just let it go.
Yeah.
I was like, but lolling is now my favorite
great
word.
verb.
Yeah. What book? It was definitely at least one other book where we got someone lolling on a bale of hay.
Oh man, at this point, we've been in Cassie's barn so many times, like I actually can't think of when it would have been.
Also, we get, just following up on our conversation about Yeerks having a smell, they say, he doesn't smell and he's handing out flyers for the sharing, Marco says. Rachel goes, he must be connected to the Yeerks. Cassie says, but how? I mean, Yeerks infest various species, humans, Hork-Bashir, Taxons, but that doesn't change the fact that a human with a Yeerk in his head should still smell like a human.
Yes,
No!
and that is the retcon. That is the retcon of the books so far.
Yeah.
That is like destroying that scene in book 1. You're absolutely right, Eddie. I looked up lolling.
He still smelled like a human, but with something else.
Yeah.
So like,
But there
he
was
should have
something
still smelled
strange
like a
about his
human.
smell. Yeah,
Earthy,
I don't know.
I think was the smell. I forget what the.
If I were to play Miranda and give sort of a far-fetched reason for why this canonically could work, the only thing I could think is that because Jake was morphing Homer, and Jake and Homer have familiarity with Tom, they could detect
That's
that something
possible.
was off with him.
And the same is true of Fluffers, McKitty, and Chapman.
Exactly. But I still don't like it because it's unclear and they should have clarified it.
Yes.
And for my sake, they should have clarified it.
Okay, Chris, tell us about lolling, and then I'm going to kick us into chapter 4.
Okay. Lolling appeared in The Stranger. It was book 7. It was Rachel's second book.
Okay.
Who was doing it?
Jake and Marco.
Jake and Marco.
Yeah, they hooked up in that book and this book.
Not until chapter
I think it's
7.
7.
Do you want to know how many times lolling appears in the series?
Sure. Is it 2?
It's 7.
Chris, if I wanted to look up some more things on this Anidata you're speaking of, how would I go about doing that?
It's 8 counting the capitalized variant of lolling. You could go to anidata.net, which is a website we run.
Yeah,
so that we can look up bullshit about the Animorphs in a moment's notice.
Chapter 3 ends with them deciding that only Cassie, Marco, and Tobias have time to go looking for these Eric Kings that they found in the phone book tonight.
Love an Eric King. We love a short king. We love an Eric King.
Rachel's dad is going to take her and her sisters to Planet Hollywood. He's in town,
Whatever
so
the
that's
fuck that
really
is.
nice.
It sounds like medieval times, but for LA. Okay.
Jake has a paper to write. Turns out Marco also had that paper to write, but chose not to because now it's the next day in the cafeteria and Marco is trying to write that paper at lunch.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
And he has written, 3 pages and still hasn't picked a topic yet? Like, he's just motoring through this paper, just BSing the whole way.
Well, it's quadruple spaced.
Yes. Yeah.
Knowing Marco, absolutely.
An extra space after the periods, right? That's,
Just typing etiquette.
Oh my God, yeah.
So Marco gives an update to Jake. They found out where Eric King lives. They've been spying on people. It's a little bit weird.
Specifically spying on Eric Kings. And
Are you talking about the fact that like Marco almost admits to peeping?
Yeah, he totally does. He's like, I
Yeah.
wish it had been this other Eric King because his sister was hot. Like,
Yeah.
Which is really creepy, Marco. Not a good look.
Yeah.
But he insists he would never do that. And also he's like, I'm going to write a paper on how to write a paper without saying anything. Oh, and then we have this cute note that they call the cafeteria food the Daily Goo.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And like, that's just such a great, they didn't explain it. They'd never done it before, but it was like, mwah, chef's kiss.
How hard, if we just read dialogue, how fast could we go through this? Because I bet you it takes like 45 seconds to read through.
Just dialogue?
Like if it were just dialogue.
Okay, let's do it. I'll take Jake again.
I'll take Marco.
Okay, go for it.
English paper.
Yeah.
You're good for me, Marco. Compared to you, I'm so responsible. You have a topic?
I've already written 3 pages. What do you mean, do I have a topic?
So, do you have a topic?
A topic will emerge. I'm going to just write until I discover a topic, Jake. The topic will rise from these pages. It will reveal itself to me. I just have to keep writing.
Mm-hmm. This food is blue. Food should not be blue. Hey, here's a topic for you. The use of total bull in the writing of English papers.
I am the master of bull, I said, grinning. 3 pages so far, and I haven't actually said a single thing.
Did you guys happen to find our friend?
Yeah, we found out where he lives, saw him through a window. Too bad, though. One of the other king residences we checked out had this girl living there who was amazing.
You weren't window peeping, I hope.
How could you even say that? What kind of person do you think I am?
Cassie wouldn't let you, huh?
I'm trying to write a paper here.
On the topic
of how to write 1,000 words and say nothing. 0, not a squat.
We need to check Eric out. There's definitely something wrong there.
You mean get inside his house?
Not yet. Get Tobias to watch him when he's outside, but Tobias will need some help.
I'll help. I have plenty of time. I'm dropping out of school this afternoon right after the teacher gets done laughing at this paper.
Topic: the use of rhetoric to obscure a lack of content.
OMG. That's brilliant. It means the same thing as the use of total bull, but it sounds so much better.
Mm-hmm. Eat your goo. I gotta go.
And then he goes to make out with Cassie.
Yeah.
It just has this total quippiness to it. Thank you, Eddie. And scene. All right.
So Jake goes over to sit with Cassie because, again, they can never, as we've seen in other books, they can never start looking like a group. They break that in the first episode of the Animorphs TV show, by the way. In school or in public places, we keep our distance. We only reveal the relationships that already existed before we became Animorphs.
Every new person I meet, gotta pretend I didn't.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, and who are you again? We've been introduced like 6 times. I'm the new kid. Like,
and then Miranda, like you were saying, we get this kind of background on Marco's relationship with Eric. So he starts reflecting on this relationship. He says, Eric has never been some major friend of mine. He was just this kid I'd say hi to in the hallway, except that he'd been there for my mother's funeral, a funeral without a body.
And this is bizarre. Miranda hit upon it. Like, it was more that, like, this person who was supposed to be a kid at his mother's funeral, who, like, he doesn't even really understand why he was there because he wasn't a close friend. And, like, some kids from the school had come, but, like, you know, Marco's not at a loss for friends. So,
yeah, you know,
Eric being there was bizarre.
I'm just going to read it quick.
Yeah.
So he's trying to write his paper. He's sitting there at lunch thinking, and then he goes, I stared down at the paper, but I was seeing a funeral service, singing, flowers, some priest talking about how great my mother had been. He hadn't even known my mother. I remember turning around in my pew to look at the church. A lot of people had come, a lot of sad faces, a lot of tears. Most people just looking solemn because that's the way you had to look at a funeral. Eric had been 3 rows back. He was wearing a suit that was probably scratchy and uncomfortable, but he didn't look solemn. He looked angry, and he was shaking his head slowly, barely, from side to side, as if he was unconsciously disagreeing with everything the priest said. At the time, I figured he was mad because he had to dress up. I understood that. And then he thinks now Eric had reappeared in his life, and he doesn't smell human, and he works for the sharing.
And we're going to have to see about all this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chapter 5.
I do like that we kind of got a flashback. We got a flashback there.
It's a great flashback. Yeah.
It's really good. And I really liked, even in book 5, like Marco, they all get these little flashbacks sometimes, but like Marco in particular seemed to get flashes back to like when his mom was alive. And so now it's interesting to see flashes back to the sort of like moments after she died.
Yeah, it's also interesting, like, noting that probably was unlocked by him coming to realizations about what had actually happened to his mother.
Yeah.
Like, which is probably what you were implying, but I'm going to explicitly say it now.
He's primed to recognize Eric because he's been going over every moment about his mother's death in his head lately.
So Marco is up in the air. He's flying.
Can we talk about how he gets there real quick, though? Because it is just like school lets out and he sneaks onto the roof.
Onto the roof.
Yeah,
So
and just
badass.
bursts out in fly. So it's like school, like, you know, like you can just imagine him like rifling through his locker and getting his bag and then being like, then sneaking over to the stairs and going up on.
Well, what's he gonna
No,
do
it's
with
like a
his
very
backpack
cute
once he gets up?
image. They're probably like, oh, Marco's probably up to no good. He's probably going to smoke cigarettes or meet some girl on top of the middle school.
Anyway, so he's flying. You're right. He's flying away from the school and he's thinking that he'll do a little bit of extra reconnaissance on Eric.
Yeah.
I believe.
Thinking about the funeral has like stirred up. He's like got a weird feeling about it now. And so he's like, I definitely feel like I need to check on him even more.
And in true Animorphs fashion, he's like, I'll do it alone for some reason.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell anybody.
Very Rachel of him.
True.
Marco the Rachel. Marco the Rachel the liar.
The movie.
The movie, a musical.
I love this though because he spots Tobias from far off.
Yeah, and this is our necessary thermals chapter 2.
Oh,
I'm sure you
yeah,
were just
no,
about to hit that,
it's
but this is like Playbird for thermals right
Yeah,
now.
this
I
is
can't
like,
think of a contemporary thermal hub. You thermal? No, I don't. Only thermals.
Only thermal.
There we go.
Thermal fan.
Thermal fan.
He feels a thermal, which is a pillar of warm air, billow up beneath his wings.
A thick
shoots
pillar.
Yeah,
Of
shoots
hot,
up.
throbbing warm air.
Doesn't throb, but it
shoots
does. Yeah. Everything else I agree with. If it's throbbing, see a doctor.
I rode that thermal as high as it would carry me. See, the thermal will give you altitude for almost no effort, and you can turn that altitude into distance.
There you go. That's the spirit. And we all know that from Tears of the Kingdom.
Yes, but then he finally sees Tobias, and I like this moment because
This was so good.
he goes, Tobias, can you hear me? And Tobias answers, I can hear you and see you, Marco. I've been watching you for 20 minutes. And Marco's like, no way, I just spotted you. And Tobias, who always has to be a little bit mysterious, he says, you have to know what to look for, Marco.
By the way, when I count to 3, Marco, you need to bank a very sharp, very fast left. And Marco's
Turn?
like,
Why?
And
But
he's
he
like,
does it.
just do it. 1, 2, 3. And he luckily does it.
And he dodges a diving peregrine falcon who claims not to be Jake.
Yes.
But I have
it could have been an
suspicions.
assassination attempt. I have suspicions as well.
Tobias goes, heh, heh, heh. Welcome to my world. That's a peregrine falcon, like Jake's morph.
I like this moment because earlier when he's first talking about flying, Marco has this moment where it's like, I guess it's not all bad being stuck as a hawk, and he's swiftly reminded of the bad that comes with being stuck as a hawk.
Yeah.
It's true. It's like the reason why you don't spend all of your day lolling in a bag of hay are the inevitable parasites you get from it.
We keep asking for Tobias books. And we get a little bit of a glimpse of what's going on for him because Marco says about the peregrine falcon, what did I ever do to make him mad? And Tobias says, shake it off. He missed, right? I know that bird. He's not as good as he thinks he is. He's taken a shot at me before. He must be hungry. And this is what's going on for Tobias.
He knows
he's
that bird.
Yeah.
I will say the past 2 books, as like 8 was like the hard sci-fi of the series so far. The past 2 books have had their sillinesses maybe or their lightnesses, but they have been Tobias books. Something about like since book 8, Tobias as a character has reawakened.
They found more stuff for him to do at the very least. Like they figured out how to get out of being stuck without him.
Right. In book 8, he's the true Shorm of Axe. In book 9, he like causes the moral conversation between
and Cassie spends a lot of time with him.
Yeah, but totally resolved by this book. We'll get there.
And totally resolved by this book, but also mentioned in this book, which still like it reifies Tobias
it's
in
more
your
than
brain.
it does to
Do you know
some.
what I bet it was? We got all the narrators in Megamorphs, and I bet they're like, oh yeah, Tobias. That's how we write Tobias. Because he didn't do anything in
Yes.
Megamorphs, but
They got a
to
taste of him
reappear.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then we're really getting it here. He's like it's cool to see it carried through.
Yeah. So they're spying on Eric.
Yes, they find him walking along and about to be bullied,
Yes.
which is Tobias's least favorite thing.
It's very triggering for Tobias.
Tobias is so anti-bully, he will just attack when bullying is happening. Like, he doesn't ask permission. He's just like, nope,
He's like, maybe I'll like give that angry looking one a new haircut.
Yeah, he's a little Talon haircut, which is a nice callback to... It's a nice little cheeky callback.
Call me Cherise, he says.
God, I wish Call Me Cherise is the name of the episode.
Because everyone knows her. She's very well known in this
so
town.
good. She's so
Cherise.
well known.
Yeah.
Yes.
And she gives a free evaluation of your CQ at the end of the haircut.
That's right. You can't get a free CQ
I love
test.
Cherise.
You can
Cherise
take a
and
CQ
Eileen.
test on the internet, but it just doesn't.
It's not the same thing.
It has to be
you
proctored
need someone
by a
to
professional.
You have to, yes, you have to be proctored. Eileen and Cherise, they're up here.
A match made in heaven.
They're top
I want
tier.
their
We
book.
need that.
They
yes,
meet in a
I
coffee
want-
shop.
They meet in a coffee shop and move to Western Mass together and start a dog therapy.
Yeah.
That is what they do.
And Eileen,
Dog grooming and training. Dog grooming and training. It's perfect.
But it is. They call it dog therapy.
Yeah.
Like the name of the LLC is Dog Therapy Western Mass.
Until, they're having a little bit of financial trouble, and then Eileen gets called back to go on Survivor because she had a streak there on her
true.
season.
You're
And they're
right
like,
about
it's
that.
a blood versus water season. Do you have anyone that
And
you
she's
can
like,
bring?
Bring
Cherise.
Cherise.
Yeah.
Yes. This
Yeah.
is genius.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Why? Like, oh man. Once I can pay you enough someday, I will never be able to pay you enough, but I just want you to write this fanfic for me now.
Yeah.
I can't afford it. So.
If you make it not a fanfic, you could just sell it. You change the names.
Honestly,
like,
yeah.
Look at that. What is it? The love hypothesis? That Kylo Ray, Raylo. That's what they call that ship. Raylo fanfic. That got very popular. Despite very clearly being a Raylo fanfic, which is a shitty ship, and I'll say it here.
It is actually. It's a very bad It's a very, very bad ship. It's very bad.
Thanks for listening to Anidorks. We'll be back soon with lots more to say. Until the Andalites return, or at least until next time. See you soon.